A post-COVID-19 economic recovery plan has been revealed by Business for South Africa. The economic blueprint was compiled by experts and businesses in response to the pandemic and the impact that it's currently having on the economy. The plan calls for a 12-step program to drive investment, growth and the creation of about 1.5 billion jobs. The project will cost just over 3 trillion rand over the next 3 years, but will only work if government changes its policies to improve the investment climate for businesses. To help us unpack the plan and many other related issues, we're joined now via a Zoom line by Martin Kingston, who's Vice President of Business for SA. Martin, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM report. So your organization says South Africa has reached a fork in the road. What do you mean by that?
What we mean is that already in a very difficult economic situation where the recession was with us, we were being downgraded by rating agencies, COVID-19 arrives and plunges us effectively into a depression. We see the economy contracting by between 8.8 and 10.4% for 2020 alone, and we know that COVID-19 is going to be with us for the foreseeable future, and certainly it's going to have an impact into 2021 and beyond. And the only way that we're going to be able to address the challenges we've got of unemployment, inequality and poverty, all of which have been magnified tremendously by COVID-19, is if we're going to take some very difficult and tough decisions as a country. That's the fork in the road. We can carry on as we did, which I'm afraid will be a road to failure, or we can take those decisions as a society, working in solidarity with our social partners, implement those decisions, and then embark upon an inclusive recovery plan, which hopefully will be able to ensure that we can see inclusive and sustainable growth emerge, and I have to caution, emerge over a period of time. It's not going to happen immediately, but we need to take those steps now.
Yeah, and it doesn't come cheap either, does it? 3.4 trillion rand for an economy that's already limping and a budget deficit that, I guess, startles many. Where do you suggest this money should come from?
Well, you're absolutely right. All the indicators are in the wrong direction, whether it be GDP growth, levels of unemployment, the debt to GDP levels, exactly as you've said. And by the way, we're not the only country that is fighting to mobilize capital domestically and internationally. There's only so much domestic capital that we can mobilize. The 3.4 trillion is 1 trillion rand more than the government had estimated in the February budget. The only way we're going to be able to do that is by making sure that we appear as an attractive investment environment, both for domestic lenders and investors, as well as internationally. We're going to have to approach all manner of institutions, multilateral and bilateral institutions abroad, and we're going to have ensure that we're a country where the ease of doing business improves dramatically relative to how we have fared in the past few years, and indeed increase our competitiveness.
Absolutely. I was waiting for you to mention the one thing that seems to have caught headlines for the past years, really, and that, of course, is the political climate in the country. Surely that counts for something too.
Well, we need to show that we can actually work hand in glove. We've identified a number of key issues that need to be addressed. Some of them have been prevalent for a long time, such as crime and corruption. Others, such as regulatory stability and ensuring that we've got policy alignment. All of those need to be put in place. It's not one or the other. And I think that we need to demonstrate, as I said, in the spirit of solidarity, government and business, alongside civil society and organized labor, that we can work together, we can work faster, more efficiently, and with impact. Otherwise, we're going to see the level of unemployment, poverty and inequality increase. As you know, as a consequence of COVID-19, we have seen some 2 million additional people being unemployed, 1 million in the formal sector, the same in the informal sector, the most vulnerable in society being pushed to the brink. Now, to do that, we need to have political stability. All the political parties need to actually come together, just as we business say that we need to join with the public sector if we're going to be able to implement this accelerated economic recovery strategy.
So the president yesterday is suggesting in some respects that part of the solution, at least as a start, is to ensure that we curb the spread of COVID-19. And he's gone on to obviously reimpose the alcohol ban sales, or the ban on alcohol sales, to be more accurate, as well as reimpose a nighttime curfew. We've been asking this question throughout the morning, and I'm going to pose it to you too. Do you get a sense that that actually strikes the right chords? I mean, is that what we should be attacking 4 months into the outbreak and over a quarter of a million infections later?
Yeah, so I believe that we are all very concerned about the fact that the alcohol ban will have a meaningful impact negatively on the economy. But the reality is that the most important thing is the healthcare of our society. The hospitals are overwhelmed, and indeed overwhelmed inter alia by alcohol-related incidents. If as a society we're not going to implement behavior change, and I think that was the fundamental theme of the President's message yesterday, then we're going to have to impose it through much more draconian measures. Unfortunately, that's exactly what we've seen. Alcohol is just one example of enabling people to maintain behavior that is not acceptable. We know that social distancing, the wearing of masks, and using sanitization is critically important, but it's not the only thing. We need to ensure that we respect people's lives and their livelihoods, including on the road. We need to conduct ourselves responsibly. If we cannot do that, then I think that the government has no choice but to curtail the sale of liquor, with attendant and very dramatic and radical ramifications, unfortunately, for the economy in the immediate short term, about which we are very concerned.
Given that, then, do you think that there's enough support within the business sector for businesses that are likely to be hit hard by this latest move? I mean, I can already see the court battles looming. Some of the organizations already suggesting that they're preparing their court papers to go and take government to court. And one, in some instance, can't blame them, because obviously there are some real losers, economically speaking at least, when government imposes such restrictions. So do you think there's enough of a cushioning of the blow within business in and of itself to ensure that, I guess, some within the sector don't go under as we all try to collaborate to curb the spread of COVID-19?
Yeah, I think that businesses, small and large, but particularly the small and medium-sized businesses, are extremely exposed at the moment. And, of course, they will resort to whatever recourse is available, including the courts, if they feel that somehow or other that's going to be able to ensure that it saves them, their employees, their workforces at large, from going to the wall. Having said that, the courts themselves are extremely stretched at the moment. And in the COVID-19 surge, we have yet to reach the peak. I think that they will be cautious and prudent about trying to overrule decisions and regulations indeed put in place by government, but we can see that is happening in many sectors. And the government, by the way, is not anti-business. The government wants the economy to thrive in these circumstances, but there's a trade-off between the challenge to the healthcare system, and the President was very explicit yesterday that the hospitals are being overwhelmed inter alia by alcohol-related incidents. I think that is what was the trigger. The same issue, of course, with respect to the curfew, where we're trying to restrict the amount of mobility. There is, of course, a balance to be struck. We've seen that in the context of the taxi industry. And unfortunately, we're going to see increasing levels of both infection and mortality as the surge increases as we move towards the peak.
Absolutely. You already alluded to the idea of collaboration, I guess, needing to take place between government and business. How much of that do you feel is currently taking place? Is there continual consultation, for instance? How much engagement have you received even to the recovery plan that you're proposing?
But we had already engaged with government on the recovery plan before we published it, as indeed we had engaged with organised labour and indeed the partners at NEDLAC. Our experience over the past 4 months since Business for South Africa was created, sponsored by the BBC and Business Unity South Africa, has been an unprecedented level of cooperation and collaboration with government in all spheres, across many departments. And I think that it's been essential in terms of trying to ensure that in solidarity and in a collaborative environment, we can see how we can work together. We've got resources, both financial and human, that we can put at the disposal of government, as we've indicated. That goes to the heart, of course, of our recovery strategy, where we say that we will do it in partnership with government and our social partners. And I think that we must exploit that new level of cooperation if we're going to be able to move forward as quickly and as impactfully as we need to.
Very quickly before I let you go, do you feel there's still room for government to, I guess, go tighter on the lockdown restrictions while still saving the economy? And it already feels like many South Africans are in a tight corner, but do you get a sense that there's still some leverage really to try and make sure that we clamp down even harder on the pandemic without sacrificing jobs forever?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I believe that we've had consultation with the government. I think going back into higher levels of lockdown would be catastrophic for the economy, very difficult to implement. There must be other ways in which we can curtail the spread of the pandemic. And indeed, the most effective way to do that, as I've indicated already, is through behavior change. And there, all of us have got a role to play. That's not just with government, that's with every single member of society that can encourage not only the fact that they themselves behave appropriately, but those around them do likewise.
All right. Martin Kingston, let me thank you very much for your time. Mr. Kingston is an executive with a Business for South Africa. I appreciate your insights indeed.